Welcome to the deep dive. We are so glad to have you with us today. I mean, we hear constantly about artificial intelligence pulling off these absolute medical miracles, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like diagnosing rare diseases or, passing medical board exams with flying colors.
Exactly. But if you actually look behind the curtain at how these systems are tested, it's not some pristine, sterile laboratory at all. It is just this chaotic, tangled junkyard of disjointed code.
It really is. It's a completely murky landscape, honestly. The way researchers currently test these advanced systems is shockingly unstandardized, which is, a major problem if we're supposed to trust them with actual healthcare decisions.
Right. And that brings us to the mission of our deep dive today. We're unpacking a new open source toolkit called BioMedArena. It was built by researchers at institutions like Oxford and UCL.
And just to clarify for everyone, it isn't a new AI itself. It's a standardized arena designed specifically to test AI.
Right, which is a crucial distinction. And to understand why this is so critical, we need to look at section 1 of the source paper, because the authors explicitly define the current problem there as the per paper engineering tax.
Yeah, the engineering tax. It's a great term for it.
It really is. They point out that evaluating a cutting-edge model, like, say, Claude Opus 4.6 or Gemini 3.1 Pro, takes weeks of writing custom glue code just to get a single accuracy number.
I mean, just think about the inefficiency of that. Imagine a hospital buys a state-of-the-art MRI machine, right? But to plug it in, the technicians have to invent a completely new type of electrical outlet.
Oh, wow.
And then, they have to build a custom power grid for that specific room. That is essentially the glue code era of AI research we're in right now.
So every team is just building from scratch.
Exactly. Scientists are spending weeks building unique, isolated testing environments for every single model. So when one research paper claims, their AI scored 80% and another claims theirs scored 85%, those numbers are virtually meaningless.
Because it's apples and oranges.
Right. You cannot compare them because the testing environments were entirely different to begin with.
Which means we don't actually know which AI is better at all. So BioMedArena attempts to fix this by building a unified testing ground. And in the process, they ended up completely shattering existing performance records.
Yeah, that was the incredible part.
I know, right? Simply changing the environment made the existing AI systems remarkably smarter. And to understand the mechanics of how this works, we really should jump to section 3 of the paper, along with the visual blueprint they provide in figure 2.
Yeah, that figure is super helpful for wrapping your head around it.
It really is.
Yeah.
The authors map out how BioMedArena takes this monolithic testing process and decouples it into 6 distinct layers. So you've got benchmark loading, tool exposure, tool selection, harness mode, context management, and scoring.
And breaking it down into those modular layers is really what gives the system its massive scale. Like, let's look at what those layers actually mean in practice. So benchmark loading is just setting up the test parameters, pretty standard. But tool exposure is where it gets really interesting. This is where the arena hands the AI the digital instruments it needs, like granting it access to search a genomic database or use a molecular visualization script.
Okay, so giving it the literal tools to do the job.
Exactly. Then tool selection is the AI deciding which of those instruments to actually pick up for a specific problem. By isolating these layers, the toolkit exposes 147 different biomedical benchmarks.
Wow.
Yeah, and it provides 75 biomedical tools organized across 9 functional families. So things like genomics, literature retrieval, imaging, and so on.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. Is this essentially like standardizing the parts of a car engine?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
So instead of a mechanic hand-forging custom screws for every single new car that rolls off the assembly line, they can just, swap in a standardized alternator or a spark plug.
That analogy totally works. But let's take it a step further. Imagine if swapping that spark plug automatically connected the engine to every diagnostic testing rig in the world simultaneously.
That's crazy.
It is. The authors note that adding a new AI model to this arena now only requires a provider adapter consisting of fewer than 100 lines of code.
Wait, really? Less than 100 lines?
Yeah.
Down from weeks of custom engineering?
Yeah, down to an afternoon's work, basically. A developer plugs their new AI into the arena, and suddenly that model has instant access to all 147 benchmarks and 75 tools.
That is just a massive time saver.
Huge. It can be evaluated head-to-head against every other model under the exact same conditions. So the playing field is entirely leveled for the first time.
Okay, so we have the standardized factory built, right? And the tools are all laid out on the table. But when the AI actually picks up those tools to solve a complex biomedical problem, a new issue emerges.
Oh yeah, the data problem.
Right, because in medical research, finding an answer isn't just a quick Google search query. The AI gets hit with an absolute tsunami of data, which causes standard models to just crash from context overflow.
They absolutely drown in the information. I mean, every AI has a context window, which is essentially its short-term working memory. It's measured in tokens.
And for you listening, you can think of a token as basically a piece of a word.
Right, exactly. So a typical model might be able to hold, say, 100,000 tokens in its head at once. But if you ask an AI to analyze a patient's genetic sequence, read 10 years of clinical trial data, and then cross-reference protein structures.
That's way more than 100,000.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
That trace can quickly accumulate hundreds of thousands of tokens. If you dump all that raw text into the AI's memory at once, it overflows. It just it either crashes or it starts hallucinating fake medical data because it literally lost the plot.
And obviously, hallucinating medical data is the last thing we want. So to see how BioMedArena prevents that collapse, we have to look at Table 5. The authors outline 6 specific context management strategies operating in the background.
Right, which are planning, memory, summarization, clearing, truncation, and rollback.
Yes, exactly. And we can see these strategies in action if we look at the data flow illustrated in Figure 3. The figure shows an AI attempting to process a 130 kilobyte context. And the authors note that this includes an 85 kilobyte raw counts matrix.
I should probably clarify what that is because it's a major hurdle in computational biology.
Yeah, please do.
A raw counts matrix is effectively a giant, incredibly dense spreadsheet detailing gene expression data. It is literally thousands of rows and columns of numbers. For a human, it's completely unreadable.
Just a wall of text.
Exactly. And for an AI, it eats up a massive portion of that short-term working memory just holding the spreadsheet open.
But Figure 3 shows that through on-the-fly context management, the system takes that 130 kilobyte burden and shrinks it down to just 6.4 kilobytes. It preserves the key findings while just dumping all the extra weight.
It's an insanely aggressive compression ratio. And it achieves that by using those 6 strategies from Table 5 dynamically as it works.
I do want to push back on that a little bit, though, because if the system is heavily relying on strategies like clearing out old data or summarizing dense tables just to save space, isn't there a severe risk of the AI forgetting something crucial?
Like what?
Well, it sounds like a rushed human doctor who only reads the 2-sentence summary of a patient's chart, right?
Yeah.
And because they skip the raw data, they miss a subtle note about a drug allergy or something.
I see what you mean. And yeah, that is the exact vulnerability you'd see if the system only used clearing and summarization. But that is exactly why planning and memory are built in alongside them as counterweights. The whole architecture is designed to prioritize relevance over raw volume.
Okay, so how does it actually balance those out in practice?
Well, let's use your doctor analogy. Before the doctor archives a 500-page patient file to clear space on their desk, they identify the salient facts, like that drug allergy you mentioned, and they write them on an index card.
Okay.
Then they pin that card to a permanent whiteboard on the wall. In BioMedArena, the memory layer persists important findings into an external store, just like that whiteboard.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the planning layer keeps a roadmap of the overall goal.
So it knows what it's looking for.
Exactly. When the AI needs that specific detail again, the memory layer re-injects it into the active context. So it isn't just indiscriminately throwing data in the trash, it's moving it to a highly organized filing cabinet.
Okay, that makes sense. What about truncation and rollback? Those were the last 2 strategies in Table 5.
They essentially act as safety valves. So truncation cuts off infinite loops. Say an AI asks a database for a list of proteins, and the database accidentally returns 1 million results. Truncation stops the feed before the AI's memory bursts.
Right, it just cuts the cord.
Exactly. And rollback is basically an undo button. If the AI uses a tool incorrectly and gets a nonsense error code back, rollback rewinds the context to the exact moment before the mistake. It clears out the bad data so the AI doesn't get confused by its own error.
Oh, that's smart. So we have memory management keeping the AI from getting overwhelmed, but managing memory doesn't inherently make the AI smarter, right? It just makes it more stable. So how does BioMedArena actually improve the AI's reasoning?
That is the really exciting part.
Right. And for that, we need to look at Section 4, which introduces the mutual evolve harness.
Yes. The agent harness fundamentally changes how AI models collaborate.
And the authors start Section 4 with a pretty stark warning about the dangers of what they call naive sharing among AI agents. They say if you assign multiple AI agents to solve a problem together and let them share their thoughts immediately, an early speculative guess from one agent can cause the rest to just blindly agree.
Yeah, they call it a collapse in the diversity of thought. And honestly, we see this in human psychology all the time.
Oh, totally. Groupthink.
Exactly. It's groupthink. You have to remember that large language models are, at their core, prediction engines. They're designed to align with the context they're given.
They want to agree.
They do. If Agent A confidently states a wrong hypothesis early in a chat room, Agents B and C will often just abandon their own logic and try to justify Agent A's hypothesis.
So how does the mutual evolve harness stop them from doing that?
It forces them into what the paper terms a private exploration phase. So you instantiate multiple parallel agents, but you basically put them in soundproof rooms. They have to research the problem, use their tools, and gather evidence in complete isolation.
So they literally cannot see what the others are doing.
Exactly. Complete isolation.
But once they've done the solitary work, they have to communicate eventually, right? Otherwise, they aren't collaborating.
They do, but not in an open chat room format. They share their findings through a highly structured environment called the global workspace.
Right. And the authors break that global workspace down into 4 specific banks. A bank for errors, a bank for skills, a bank for tools, and a bank for guides.
And structuring it this way ensures they are sharing actionable evidence, not just, opinions. Let's say an agent in isolation tries to run a Python script to analyze a genome, but it uses the wrong syntax and the code fails.
Okay.
It deposits that failure into the errors bank. Now, when the workspace opens up, the other agents see the error bank and they know not to try that specific syntax.
So it saves a ton of computing time.
Exactly. Or if an agent discovers a clever shortcut for parsing a medical journal, it puts that in the skills bank for the others to use.
It really reminds me of a medical board. You have a room full of brilliant doctors, but before anyone is allowed to speak, they all have to write down their initial diagnoses and their supporting evidence in secret.
That's a perfect parallel, actually.
That way, the loudest or most confident doctor in the room doesn't just sway the entire board into making a fatal error.
Exactly. And in the mutual evolve harness, the final decision isn't just a simple majority rule either. The ultimate answer is decided by a contribution-weighted voting system.
Oh, interesting. How does that work?
Basically, the agents that provided the most verifiable evidence, the most useful tools, and the clearest logic in the global workspace actually carry more mathematical weight in the final vote. It is essentially an engineered peer review system for AI.
That is fascinating. So we have a standardized arena, we have intelligent memory management, and a peer-reviewed hive mind. But the crucial question for you listening is whether all the structural engineering actually translates to better performance in the real world.
And the empirical results are really what elevate this from just a clever theory to a massive breakthrough.
Definitely. If we look at Figure 1, the authors reveal the overall impact. Using the BioMedArena toolkit resulted in an average performance gain of plus 15.03 percentage points across 8 representative biomedical benchmarks.
Which is huge.
It boosted every single backbone model they tested, surpassing previous state-of-the-art records.
I really need to contextualize how significant a 15 percentage point average jump is, though.
Yeah.
Because in machine learning evaluations, a new model might beat an old model by like 1 or 2%.
And they pop champagne for that.
Exactly. That is considered a highly publishable success. A 15-point leap across the board is a complete paradigm shift.
Let's dig into the granular data because it really illustrates that shift. In Table 2 and Section 5.3, the authors showcase the results across 12 different foundational backbones, which, are just the underlying base AI models like your standard Gemini or Claude.
Right.
When they took Claude Opus 4.6 and ran it on the HLE-verified gold benchmark, it achieved 56.4% accuracy. The previous state-of-the-art record was 46.8%.
So it bypassed the record comfortably. And we saw similar behavior across different corporate models, showing the arena is completely model agnostic.
Yeah, sorry, to your point, they also tested Gemini 3.1 Pro on a benchmark called BixBench. It reached 85.9%, which beat the GPT 5.5 state-of-the-art record sitting at 80.5%. But the data point from Section 5.3 that really caught my attention was on the SuperChem image subset. Gemini 3.1 Pro started with a baseline accuracy of 19.2%. When placed inside the BioMedArena framework, its accuracy skyrocketed to 62.6%.
Yeah, that one is mind-blowing.
That is a plus 43.4 percentage point lift. That's almost hard to wrap my head around.
It is. That specific jump from roughly 19% to 62% tells a really profound story. Because at 19% accuracy, an AI is essentially useless for medical chemistry. I mean, it's worse than random guessing in some contexts.
Right. You couldn't trust it with anything.
Exactly. But at 62%, it suddenly becomes a highly capable assistant. And remember, the model didn't change. Its training data didn't change. The only thing that changed was the structure of the workspace it was put into.
Which challenges a lot of assumptions about where AI development is heading right now.
It entirely changes the premise. For the past several years, the tech industry's primary strategy has been scaling the brain, build larger foundational backbones, feed them more data, increase the parameter count.
Just make it bigger.
Right. Brute force it. But what the data in Table 2 and Section 5.3 suggest is that how we test an AI, the scaffolding, the memory management, the peer review harness, is arguably just as critical as the neural network itself.
That makes total sense. Let's bring this all together for a second. BioMedArena has pulled biomedical AI research out of the disjointed glue code era. by establishing a standardized factory, managing the data flow so the AI doesn't drown, and forcing agents to peer review their work before guessing, it practically gives existing models a massive leap in capability.
Yeah, and the takeaway for anyone tracking this space, whether you build these systems, invest in them, or just want to know when AI is going to actually cure diseases, is that the future isn't solely about brute forcing larger intelligence. It is about building better ecosystems for that intelligence.
Oh, I love that phrasing.
It's true. You can hire the most brilliant doctor on the planet, but if you put them in a hospital with no electricity, a chaotic filing system, and a room full of people shouting over each other, they will fail. BioMedArena proves the value of building a functional hospital for the AI.
We started out talking about that X-ray machine. We needed a clean, precise way to see exactly what these AI models are capable of. And it turns out, when you finally take a clear picture, the models are much stronger than we thought. But it leaves me with one final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up today.
What's that?
Well, if giving AI a standardized workspace and a structured peer review system boosts its accuracy this drastically in biology and medicine, what happens when we apply these exact same frameworks to other complex, high-stakes fields?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, imagine a legal arena for navigating case law and writing contracts, or an engineering arena for designing aerospace components, or even a framework for drafting government policy. Will we reach a point where the specific brand of AI model you buy matters far less than the digital environment you build around it?
The environment might ultimately dictate the ceiling of the intelligence. The model is just the engine. The arena is the vehicle that determines how fast you can actually go.
A fascinating dynamic to watch as this technology evolves. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We will catch you next time.